So, welcome back to Sticky Segments. I'm Riki. I'm joined here today by Casey, our production manager again, and Jeremy from Harmony.
How you doing today?
Fantastic, fantastic. So, definitely everything we're about to do and discuss is legal in our localities. Please follow your local state laws and regulations. And welcome to Sticky Segments, Jeremy.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. So, how long have you been with Harmony?
So I was actually one of the founding members of Harmony.
Really? That's awesome.
Yeah. So I teamed up with my partner Bobby back in about 2015. We started building out our Mariposa location, and it kind of fell a little bit behind schedule. It ended up taking us about 3 years to do that building from start to finish.
And was that just like contractor issues or just like a plethora of issues?
It's more the city of Denver. They kind of like to work at their own pace. So
Absolutely.
Permitting and everything like that's a little bit of a challenge.
Absolutely, that bureaucracy is always there for sure.
For sure.
So yeah, but like, so how long ago was that?
So we officially started as a company. We bought an existing facility in the interim until we got our current facility up and running, and that was in August of 2016. So there's originally 9 of us.
Right.
Most of us came from the cannabis space.
Nice.
We wanted to start the company because we felt like there was definitely some quality product to the marketplace, which is what we wanted to bring, but there was kind of a lack of consistency.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's hit or miss sometimes with the concentrates or with any product in that industry for sure.
Big time. And the other thing that, I ran a different lab previous to that, Mahatma's lab for about 3 years prior to that. And one thing that I really noticed that didn't really sit well with me is that we would process everyone else's material and it would all go into the same brand.
Just all under one.
Yeah, so it got kind of confusing. You could walk into a store today and get Gorilla Glue and it's the best thing you've ever had.
Like orange, yellow, just, yeah.
Right, and then you go across town and it's the same company's Gorilla Glue and you get it expecting a similar experience and it's complete opposite of that. So with Harmony, everything we do is all vertically integrated. We have our own grow facility. We have actually two grows and 2 labs in Denver. So all of the live resin products that you're getting to enjoy from us is all grown from our in-house flower.
And we do enjoy them. So about the live resin, I understand you guys have been winning some awards along the way. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we've been pretty fortunate. Since our inception, we've kind of pushed the envelope of what is currently being done in the industry. With that, we brought our nectar, which became known as Diamonds and Sauce. At the time, nobody was really doing that. And we've continued to press that. We have our ice nectar, we have our terp batter, we have our live resin pens. We were the first ones to do the live resin pens, not cut with anything. And because of that, we've been very fortunate when it comes to competitions.
Absolutely. When you're studying the bar, everybody's trying to compete with you and you're not necessarily trying to compete with anyone else. You're just trying to do your thing, right?
Yeah, we're just having fun and, everybody on the team is very passionate. I still have the same lab crew that we've had pretty much since day one. So that,
Nice.
kind of speaks
Nice.
volumes to everything we're doing. And we've been fortunate enough to win everything from the Hemp Connoisseur to the Rooster Cup, all the way up to Spanibus. And then most recently, we swept all 3 of the hydrocarbon concentrate categories at the High Times Cannabis Cup.
Awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
super impressive. So actually, I'm just gonna go on a side note real quick here. When you say hydrocarbon, what does that mean?
So hydrocarbon is, there's different forms of extraction.
Right.
Hydrocarbon is what people commonly refer to as butane extractions.
So is that only butane or is it butane and propane?
We use butane and propane. I think that when you use a blend, you're getting a more full, robust extract.
Okay.
So we've always kind of geared ourselves to be more full spectrum. And, I've spent a lot of time and money on testing and temperatures and everything like that to dial it in to where we're getting a 1:1 ratio of what our flower is testing out for terpenes to what the concentrates are testing out for terpenes.
Right.
So you're getting a direct correlation of what that plant was when it was still alive and growing.
Awesome. Awesome. So no CO2 though?
No CO2.
All right. Just, yeah, I know there's a lot of different forms of extraction. That's really cool that you guys do both simultaneously, and I could see it in your product for sure.
For sure.
So is that one of the ways, this industry is always adapting and changing. Is that one of the ways you guys have been able to stay ahead of it?
Yeah, I think that I've kind of taken a different approach to how I run our lab. Every single person on my team, if they have an idea of something that they'd like to try, everybody's open to do experimentation and try new things and see how we can push the envelope. And I really encourage everyone to think outside of the box.
Absolutely, it sounds like you got a good crew that's able to, continually push the envelope for you guys and help the company move forward.
100%. I couldn't ask for a better team.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So products that you guys make, obviously we're talking like concentrates, we're talking like crumble wax, we're talking like live resin, batter.
Yep. So yeah, shatter, sugar, wax, the nectar, the ice nectar, which is where we take and isolate out the THC and the terpenes by themselves individually and separate them from everything else in the concentrate. And then we combine them back in specific ratios. So it's really the first designer hash, if you will.
Yeah, no, that's a lot of science going into that dab for sure. So is that why because I know like on your award-winning ones recently, they've been like super clear. Is that why that is? Because you're going through that all the extraction and
yeah. So when we make the ice nectar, it's not a CRC like everyone else is doing now. It's kind of catching on. We're not just filtering out color pigment. We're literally isolating out every single part of the extract. So it's the only completely fully de-wax product on the market, and it gives a true representation. If you've had CRC product, you know that it removes some of the flavor when you're doing that process.
Absolutely. And CRC, what's that one more time?
So it's CRC, I like to call it CR, but everyone knows it as CRC. It's color remediation column is what it stands for. So it's color remediation. You're removing all the color pigments.
So you're actively going in, you're not necessarily trying to preserve the taste or the THC, you're just trying to get rid of the color with that process.
Correct.
And then
so that's what our terp batter is. And I wasn't happy with just pulling the color pigment out. It looks great, it smells pretty good, and then you go to smoke it and you're like, what just happened?
Right.
So we took a different approach. When we do our terp batter, it is a CR tech, but what we're doing is we're taking our ice nectar terpenes and we're infusing those back into that wax.
Okay.
So now you're still getting that full representation of the product that we're trying to represent.
All that smell and back the throat tingly goodness.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. All right, awesome. So do you guys do cartridges?
We do cartridges. We do both live resin cartridges, and then we have a separate brand that we've created called Flash, which is kind of short for flavored hash. So with that line, we're using botanically dried terpenes.
So something plant related that tastes like you want it to taste.
Correct.
You inject that process, or you inject that chemical almost, not really chemical, but that naturally occurring flavor, smell.
Yeah, it's all produced from different terpenes.
Right.
It's just they pull out specific ones from everything from tree bark to oranges and just different things that they're using to extract the terpenes.
Absolutely.
And then we're able to culminate that to create the strawberry or the blueberry or pomegranate or our fairy floss. So yeah.
I think Casey got to try the fairy floss. How
I
was
did.
that?
It tasted like cotton candy to me.
It is cotton candy.
Okay.
But we can't say candy, right?
Yeah.
Because of the industry that we're in.
Yeah.
So if you go back to when cotton candy first appeared, it was actually called fairy floss initially.
That's right,
So it's
yeah.
kind of a throwback
was-
to where it all started.
It was super, super good.
Thank you.
It's white. Like that's what really shocked me. I opened it and was like, I just got totally ripped off my sample. There's nothing in this cartridge. And then I'm just turning it and I'm like, there it is, okay.
Yeah.
It was so good though.
Yeah.
Definitely 3 to 4 hits.
That's awesome.
That's great.
A lot of people take old trim or machine trim or something that's kind of a subpar product and turn it into their distillate.
Mm-hmm.
I've kind of taken a different approach on that as well. I refuse to take just garbage and put it into our products.
Absolutely.
So we start actually with pressed hash bags, so rosin bags, and we're extracting those, and that's what we're turning into our distillate.
Okay. Well, it's definitely good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Really glad to hear that.
For sure. So I also understand you guys have expanded. You're not only here in Colorado now.
Correct.
Where tell me about that.
So we're right now in the middle of expansion both into Nevada which I'm building a facility from the ground up. It's gonna be all GMP compliant. I'm really excited for it. It's fun to get to design every single nook and cranny in a building that doesn't even exist yet.
Absolutely, just get your dreams on the paper. And
100%.
Reality, for sure.
And then most recently, we actually just got product into a store out in Oklahoma.
Awesome.
So we've started doing a little bit of processing. We started with the flash out there while we finish our lab, and then we should have our live resin out there, I would say within the next 60 days or so.
And I was like, because the process here, like to get a facility up and going, as we were talking about at the beginning, like Denver, city of Denver, they love to make you jump through hoops. It's
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it's like they get paid to do that or something, I don't know.
Right.
Some other places around Colorado, it's a little easier, you know, when you get out to like Boulder County or, you know, rural Pueblo County, it's a little bit easier. How was it in Oklahoma?
Where we're at, it's a part of Oklahoma City, and they have adopted Denver's rules.
Oh, so,
So it's, you know, they're not quite as big of stickler as Denver is, but all the basic requirements are all the same.
that's gotta be convenient for transposing the business over.
I mean, that's what we've built everything on, you know. When we go into a new location, even if the current regulations aren't up to that standard, that's the standard that we're gonna build our facilities to. You know, number one overall for me personally is the safety of my employees.
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
you're working with really volatile stuff there. I mean, when marijuana we had the green rush out here, it was at least once a week you'd hear about some idiot blowing up his house.
Yeah.
And it can happen, for sure.
No, you know, I was unfortunate enough to have an experience like that when I was at Mahatma, so I'm very familiar with how easily something like that can happen, and it doesn't take someone standing there being an idiot smoking, you know?
Right.
When we had our accident, we had some water baths were plugged into a timer, and the timer shorted out and sparked, and when it did, it ignited the structure that we were doing our extractions in, so it was a pretty bad day.
Yeah, no, that's really scary.
Luckily, we were fortunate enough that nobody got
I'll
hurt.
say that's
knock
very
on wood.
fortunate,
Thank
yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, but, I mean, obviously, like, the more time you've been in the process, the more you've seen, you're developing better safety, you're developing, you know, fail-safe so that this type of stuff doesn't happen, right?
Yeah, 100%. So, you know, before when we were open blasting, obviously that's inherently dangerous.
Mhm.
What we have now is an enclosed booth, something like you'd see in a laboratory where it has a sash that slides open and our equipment's in there. So it's got nothing in that room that can create a spark. And it also has a mass amount of air movement that goes through that room. So there's about 100+ linear feet of air movement going across my equipment at all times.
That's good.
So if there ever was
Some kind of leak or whatever, it's
Some-
gonna dissipate.
exactly, and so it'll you know get rid of it before it ever becomes an issue.
That's great. So Nevada, pretty much same thing as Oklahoma, or are they?
Pretty much. Subtle differences, but overall it's the same thing.
Seems like a lot of people base their model off of Colorado and Denver and what we're doing.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we've kind of been the industry leaders from the beginning. We hit the ground running with regulation. Our regulators got highly involved with it.
Absolutely.
Denver Fire hired on a specialist that's all he does is he goes in and goes through the regulations of fire code that as it pertains to other industries and how he can incorporate that into what we're doing. So that's led to a lot of changes over the years.
Absolutely, and I mean, they're good about it. They come by, you know, every 6 months, give us a good look, and, you know, if there's something we're not doing right, they let us know, and
Right.
we fix it.
100%.
It works.
Yeah, I've always had a really good working relationship with those guys.
Absolutely. So, I mean, you talked about being vertically integrated, you talked about, you know, the CRC versus, you know, the terp and THC reintroduction that y'all do. What else do you do that makes Harmony, I mean, other than the like really badass hummingbird, what else sets Harmony apart?
I mean, it's just our commitment to quality. You know, being that we are vertically integrated, everything that we grow is for extraction. So we're not spraying a bunch of chemicals on our product. The way that we grow is a little bit different than you would grow for flower. You know, most people are trying to get 2+ pounds of light, and that's not what we grow for.
No, you grow for, I mean, do you want the whole plant? You want just a nice, big, healthy plant?
Right, no, 100%, but like, you know, a lot of people, when you're thinking of flour, you're basing everything off of weight, right?
Right.
Well, with concentrates, on my returns out of the machine. So if I have a plant that yields 3 pounds of light, but I only get a 3% yield, compared to a plant that, you know, I get 1.5 pounds of light, but I get a 6% yield out of the machine, to me, that's what I would prefer.
Right.
It's less work to get more product out, and we're able to grow more boutique strains that most people aren't able to grow.
Absolutely. You're not concerned about the numbers, you're concerned about that THC and that terp profile.
100%.
That's
100%. My business partner one time tried to get us to switch our nutrient line over to running very basic salt. Just he sees the cost, right?
Right.
It's always looking at his dollar signs. And we got through about 2 harvests before I looked at him. I was like, this isn't gonna work. Like,
No.
we've gotta stop this.
No.
This isn't what we do.
You know, I mean, I've been in a lot of gardens. I mean, I've been in gardens for almost 12 years now, and definitely nutrients and that getting that dialed in is something that we look at. And then there's, you know, I mean, it's not cheap. Like this industry, like, you know, if you want good stuff that's not going to give you chemical burn, you got to pay for it.
100%. Yeah, you definitely get what you put in.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then you also have to, you know, deal with the fickle bitch of luck, right?
For sure. Yeah, we've done a lot of trying to automate our processes as much as we can. You know, so all of our flower rooms are all on dosatrons, so it's all automated watering systems. In the lab, we're not having to whip wax anymore or anything like that. Everything has a specialized piece of equipment for it.
Nice.
So because of that, it makes a lot easier to keep everything as consistent as we can.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, back to consistency. Let's talk cartridges. You know, we've seen a health scare in 2019.
Yep.
You know, some people have gotten sick. As far as I know, and I'm not a doctor or an expert on this, but I don't believe it's come from any legal cannabis product.
You know, I can't speak on whether it has or whether it hasn't. My personal approach to the cartridges is that I've never wanted to put out something that you're having to use some sort of cutting agent, whether it's PG, PEG, VG, MCT, you know, more recently people using the vitamin E acetate. I've always felt like you're kind of ripping off the consumer at that point. So, you know, our products are a little bit more expensive than some of the other brands out there, but that's because we don't cut those corners.
Absolutely, no cutting corners by cutting.
Yeah.
For sure. So do you think it's gonna come back? Do you think the cart market's gonna be fine?
100%. I think this was just a bump in the road. You know, this is something that has really taken off pretty heavily in the past 2 years or so. You know, we've obviously had cartridges for, you know, probably a good decade now, but I think within the past 2 years, we've had a lot of hurdles that we've overcome. You know, again, it took us a long time. It took me about 12 months to get our lab resin cartridge formulated and going through all the trials and tribulations of hardware and making sure oil wasn't wicking up into it or it wasn't leaking and you're getting a proper hit off of it, and just, you know, we've tried to incorporate it to be as close to a dab as possible.
Absolutely, because that's what cartridges are. They're basically people that do portable dabs, right?
Right.
So, yeah, well, let's take a look at some of the products you bought.
Yeah, I got a couple of things here with me.
For sure. All
So,
of the,
I actually brought, we do, the state allows us to do QC now. I don't know if you guys do that at your facility or not.
what is that?
Quality control.
Oh, quality control? Yeah, we've been able to do that for years.
Really?
Yeah.
They, the state just made it so for me on the lab side, because we don't have a store,
Right.
it's not as easy as going in, because we have to go and send it to a store, do a buyback and everything like that. So this year, the state made a law to where we're able to pull out a 1/4 gram sample out of every batch after it's been tested, just for quality control.
Just to make sure it's still at that consistency and, you know, what you're expecting from your product.
100%. So I've got just a little bit of some Marijuana OG live sugar.
That is, I'm gonna like hold it up like this. That is super golden. And it smells as good as it looks. Check that out, Busy.
Oh, wow.
And then we've got a little bit of the purple headband live
Super
nectar.
pretty.
So really, on the 402, 3 side, you've just now got the ability to adjust packages that way, because that's how you do it, it's an adjustment, right?
Yeah, you're able to pull out a quarter gram and essentially manifest it out of that.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure, I shouldn't say I'm pretty sure, how I've always done it on the 402 and the 403 is just QC button, adjust quantity. I guess that's not something the 403 would, 404 would have, because you're,
No, previous to this, we weren't able to pull out any samples.
yeah. That is delicious smelling,
Yeah, that was a huge game changer.
absolutely.
Oh wow, and what was this you said?
That is the purple headband nectar.
Oh.
And I've got a little bit of some batter, some live batter.
So this is that, what you're
That's
telling us where it's
really
the.
nice.
That's not the turt batter, that's just our normal live.
Just normal, so it's still full plant spectrum.
Yep. No CR tech on that.
Doesn't quite have as strong a smell as the other one, but smells,
It's a little different.
yeah, it smells different. It still smells great, don't get me wrong. But those other two just kick you in the face, whereas that
For
one's
sure.
kind of like, I'm gonna be nice to you, but you gotta be nice to me smell.
100%. The wax kind of locks them a little bit more, the terps are a little bit looser on the sugars and the nectars. It's kind of weird to think about all of this is all just a crystallization process.
Absolutely.
Do you guys have a rig?
Yeah.
I do.
Why don't you grab the Luca?
You are more than welcome to try these out. I got a lemon G cartridge here as well.
Ooh, lemon G. Nice battery pen.
That was our custom one we did for the High Times Cup.
Really?
It's
So
like-
how was
it's a
that?
commemorative pen. How was that?
Yeah, how was that?
Oh my God. Unreal.
Unreal?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
We've been fortunate in all the competitions we've entered, but we've never won a High Times Cup. And so when High Times announced that they were coming back, we all got super excited for just the opportunity to hopefully bring one award home.
Yeah.
It's kind of always been a dream of mine, and I know it's been a dream of a lot of people on my team. We grew up with High Times. If you've been
Absolutely.
into cannabis for a long time and you're an older generation, you've definitely grown up with High Times.
Yeah.
That was the only magazine back in the day.
Right.
100%. So
Definitely a
to
huge achievement.
be able to compete in of itself is just something very special. And then,
Yeah.
when we won the first award, I was just beside myself. Like I
Like, what do you do?
couldn't believe that we finally got a cannabis cup. It was insane. And then after they called the third one, it was
Wow.
surreal. I can't even explain it. It was blown away.
Mind-blowing. Yeah, just mind blowing.
That's gotta be a huge honor for sure.
Oh, that was probably the biggest achievement that I've had in my career.
I probably would have cried. Like, just me personally.
I was so nervous going up to it. My stomach was in knots, and I was just like almost sick, like just waiting. It was just nerve wracking.
And now we can only compete in those when they're actually here locally, like we can't travel, like if they decide to go to Oklahoma, well, you could compete in Oklahoma now, but
Right.
Illinois just opened up.
Yeah.
We can compete there if we wanted to.
Well, it was interesting, right? Because Colorado has limitations on the amount of products that you can purchase in a day.
Absolutely.
So with concentrates, that's 8 grams.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, the kits that they had were over 8 grams. So judges were having to go back into the store multiple days just to get their full kits.
Yeah, Count Luke, gotta go over like multiple days for sure.
Right. Right. 100%.
All right, so what do you want to try first?
Oh, what do you
I
want?
mean, technically, we tried the lemon G first, so that's already kind of jade my opinion on it, just moving forward.
All right, so what do we all want to dab on first?
Let's
I'm
try-
gonna take his recommendation.
Let's do the Arowana. I love that strain.
All right.
Now, that is an old school one, that one's been around as long as I feel like we've had medical cannabis in Colorado.
Yeah, it's I think that's probably one of those ones that came from Pink House back in the day and kind of made its way around.
Yeah. They still around?
Pink House is around. I think they only have one location.
Sounds familiar.
For sure.
Now, do you find that like the smaller shops, do you get more product sales through there than with the big shops, or is it just kind of location based, or?
It's definitely location based, especially being that we're a higher end brand. There's definitely locations that do better with our product than others.
Absolutely.
But you know, when I go into these shops and I try to encourage my salespeople to do the same, is don't make a huge sale. I'd rather go in and, you know, make a drop this week and make a drop next week
Yeah.
and the following week, just to keep everything fresh and consistent. And, you know, you're always getting something new.
And the customers love that, you know, when they walk in and like, you know, they like Harmony, and they come in once a week, and every week I've got new Harmony wax.
Right.
Or new Harmony batter. Some people like that consistency though. We have one gentleman, he calls up every week asking if we have the flow batter in stock.
Mhm.
How does this work? I've never used it.
So you're charged here, just gotta hit it lightly and politely.
And then I want to say he actually called today asking if we had some more.
So I reached out to Griffin, our sales rep, you know, awesome guy.
Super
And
awesome.
he told me the only flow he had in was in a 4-gram bucket. So I was gonna reach out and see about maybe if that'd be something he'd be interested in.
The baller bucket.
The baller bucket.
It sounds like if he's getting flow every week, that's what he probably needs to be getting anyway.
Right.
For sure.
I love that. What'd you think about OG?
That Marijuana was like super smooth. I'm feeling it in my cerebral right now. And it wasn't harsh at all. Like super smooth.
It's a really sweet kush. Yeah, we've got a few kushes that we grow, and the Harry and the Mars are probably my two favorite.
Absolutely.
That tastes really good.
The purple headband's yummy. It's a crazy contraption.
This one?
Yeah.
I love it actually. Like I promote the fuck out of that pin in the dispo.
It's convenient.
Like
Yeah.
people are like, "Oh, what's your favorite pin?" I'm like, "The seahorse." You need to just get it.
I usually have my Puffco Peak with me, and I forgot it at home today.
I like those. I've looked into the investment for those, but
Okay, actually, so, what happens is we charge it for, we hit 3 times to charge it, and it gives us the 30-second charge, where
Okay.
this is like heated up dab, so. As soon as that's turned solid, you'll look good. Sweet. And you can actually screw that off and put a 510 paper cartridge on there.
That's pretty rad. I've never seen this before.
Yeah, we started carrying them about a month ago. Not trying to plug their product too much, but it is definitely handy for, you know, doing the dabs on the go.
Right.
and like I said, if you just want to switch to your cartridge real quick, it's just boom, simple switch off.
That's pretty cool.
See, that one was a little bit more cannabisy to me. That one felt more like smoking weed. That other one, the first one, the marijuana, was just so smooth. It's like,
Right, this will hit you in the throat a little bit.
yeah, I see that.
Try this Phantom Banana.
I like the marijuana though. I
Me
think,
too.
what is it, the Woodstock? I think we have a Woodstock one that has the marijuana in it, and it's like.
Yeah, I can't remember which one.
Nice.
We did some pretty interesting crosses. I had
Those
a-
are interesting. There's one that's like Boo Kush and something else.
Sour Kush, I think.
Yeah, it's like I think I'm a farmer.
I'm a farmer,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's just, I love it. I'm like, God, these
We,
memes.
we had a lot of fun trying to figure out how to incorporate the original Woodstock into what we were doing. So we kind of went back, and I went back and watched the video of the original Woodstock and just kind of went through and wrote down some of the more popular statements that were made then. And so, you know, we just took some things that were from the original Woodstock and incorporated it into our strain names. Like Freeway's Closed Man.
That was it. That one's
That one's,
that
yeah,
was a
that
good
one's
one.
like, that one's one of our hot sellers in the store for sure.
You know, they crack me up every time. Every time I read them, I just laugh.
So actually, no, that's something we didn't even touch on, now that I'm thinking about it, after we've already picked up the apps. So we actually carry 3 different brands right here. When I think about it, we have
Which is really good.
an 1856 brand. We only have it in the cartridges. You used to make a live fusion wax out of it.
Yep.
That was delicious.
Yep, we should have some of that coming back in stock here. I have some material coming in next week for it.
Now, are those terpenes that you extracted out of real fruit?
So it's kind of similar to like our flash, where we're taking botanically derived terpenes and then fusing them back into the product when we're making it.
Okay, because there's terpene profile on them are
Oh, yeah.
amazing.
Did you try the peach one?
I didn't try the peach
Oh.
one. I got the grapefruit and the lemonade, and I was just like,
You're so
wow.
charged.
Like my whole banger tasted like grapefruit for like 3 days. I was like, damn, all right.
So that definitely feels like a wax batter dab. I feel it like all through my throat, starting to get a little into the cerebral a little bit. Very nice. And definitely I can taste the terps in it.
Mm-hmm.
It tastes much.
Comes out a lot stronger, huh?
Yeah, no, like when we smelled it, I was like, there's nothing here. And now I think that was actually the strongest tasting one you showed
Yeah,
us.
you know, of all the consistencies outside of the ice nectar, my go-to is batter every time. And it's kind of funny because that's how we started back in the day, was making wax.
Right.
You know, and now it's kind of come, I never really got into the shatter when everybody was into it. The nectar, that was something special, especially when we started making it. I don't know if you guys have ever seen a big jar of it together, but
Yeah.
it's crazy to have the crystals and the terps are just loosely moving, and some of the crystals that we've gotten are just so clear and they get so big. It's
Almost
crazy.
like a lava lamp.
It's
Oh, but like it's just like, oh, okay.
it's pretty wild.
Intriguing.
But yeah, out of all of it, I still just, every time I get a good wax or batter, there's just nothing that I think really compares to it.
That's your experience. It's your safe space in marijuana.
Totally.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's, you know, it's the most evenly distributed product, right?
Right.
Everything's blended together. Wax is actually a crystallization process as well. It's a bunch of little tiny microcrystals. If you threw it under a microscope, you'd be able to see them.
Right.
So the naked eye it just looks like wax, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's kind of a weird thing.
Right.
But yeah, that's it for me.
It's
How
just-
about you?
Mhm.
What's your go-to concentrate?
My go-to concentrate, you know, it depends on where I'm at. Like, obviously, I have access to a lot of stuff, so if I have a sample of some diamond sauce, I'm gonna try the diamond sauce. If I'm spending money for something, it's usually a sugar.
Gotcha.
I like the crystals, I like, not like a heavy diamond sauce, but just a little bit of that, you know, distillate or, I'm not sure what they call it, but, you know, the terp just kind of still in there.
Yeah.
And then like coated with the crystals.
It's definitely not distillate. So it's actually that like liquid fraction.
I think it'll be closest to the marijuana in that like, that diamondy.
Yeah, so that's our nectar. So that's it's a separation of the terpenes and the cannabinoids. So the THCA crystallizes and kind of isolates itself out from all the other cannabinoids and terpenoids that are in there.
Absolutely.
So that's what's kind of giving it that liquidy consistency. Distillate is a very unique product of its own. Kind of as I mentioned before, you can make distillate out of the worst
Almost
material you've ever
anything.
seen, and you can still turn it into something that, you know, looks like a decent product. But basically what distilling alcohol, it's the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everything has a boiling point where it turns from a solid or a liquid into a vapor, and cannabis is no different. So with distillation, you're essentially heating it up very slowly,
Right.
and you're fractioning off all these different constituents that are in there until you get to the THC fraction. So distillate is isolating the THC from anything else in there that could be some sort of contaminant, if you will.
Yeah.
So it's just the most pure form of THC that you can get outside of doing just a straight isolate crystallization process.
Now, we carried those before, but those are rare. I feel like nobody really makes just the pure THC crystals.
Yeah, you know, we make them, but it takes a lot of product to make it, and it's very time consuming, and you know, so it ends up being a little bit more of a high-end product on the price point.
For sure.
It's very unique. If you want the most pure form of THC possible,
That's it. Yeah.
that's it. It gets no purer than that. The thing that it really lacks, though, is the terpenes.
Yeah.
Right. Back
There's
to like
nothing,
not
yeah.
tasting anything.
Right. So, you know, the terpenes play a massive role in how product is going to affect you. You know, when people start getting into the whole indica sativa hybrid thing, that's a very rudimentary way to look at it. While there are, certain outlying factors that kind of, in general, you get certain effects from those type of things, you can have a sativa that makes you go to sleep, and you can have an indica that makes you want to go mow your yard.
Yep.
Absolutely, I mean, that's individual, reactions to different strains, and that's like different strains are, crossbred and expressing themselves over time.
Right, so it's those terpenes and how they react with your body. So, when if I take our THC isolate and I smoke it, it's a very heavy head high. It onsets very quickly, it lasts about 45 minutes to an hour, and it goes away almost as fast as it came on. Now, if I take those same crystals and I take our terpene isolation and I dip it in with the terpenes and take a hit, it'll get me high for a couple hours, and I'll get that euphoric feeling over my body, and it's kind of, more uplifting, and you get that more euphoric effect that comes with it. So people don't realize how much the terpene profile can actually affect it, I think one of the biggest problems I see with the way that people purchase products when they go into a store is there, two questions. What's your sativas, what's your indicas, your hybrids, and then what's the highest testing one?
Yeah.
That's one way to shop for it, but you can smoke a flower that's 15%, and it'll have more of an effect for longer than something that's 30%.
Exactly.
Anyone that's been in a grow knows that's true. There's certain strains you're like, whoa, that tested that, but it gets me so high.
Right. So yeah, it's those terps. So when I go into a store and I'm looking to buy a product, I literally don't even look at the tests. I usually don't look at the strain unless it's something that I've specifically had before that I'm looking for. I'll go through and just start opening jars and smelling all the different smells, and
Absolutely.
that's your nose knows.
Exactly.
Many people spend many hours to concentrate having it
Just smelling it. It's just like, okay, cool.
For sure. But yeah, I don't know. Do you guys know what makes live resin so special and why it's called live resin?
No.
So a lot of people don't. You'd be surprised.
Yeah, tell me
when
the
I go
story
into
of live,
stores.
please.
So live resin, the reason it's called live resin is because it's a direct correlation to the terpene profile of the plant when it was still alive. So when you harvest the plant, anyone that's grown knows that when you harvest it, it has a completely different smell than a week later, 2 weeks later after you dry cured it.
She does most of the harvesting for our grow,
So you're very familiar. So this is kind of crazy to think about, but about 70% of the terpenes that the plant produces over its life cycle evaporate off in the first week of drying the plant out. So when we do live resin, we're freezing it, right? The reason that those are evaporating off is because they're boiling. Anytime you open a bag or a jar, that smell you get that comes off of it is literally terpenes evaporating from boiling. They have that low of a boiling point. So when we freeze it, at sub-zero temperatures, it locks in those flavors. So that's why when you get a live resin concentrate compared to a cure concentrate, the flavor and the smell and everything about it is just completely different.
Isn't that why it's also more grainy as well?
What do you mean?
Like when you look at the sugar, it has the sugar texture. But isn't that why as
So
well?
you can get cure product to have that same texture.
Okay.
That's just in the way that you're doing all your post-processing stuff. Again, it's all a crystallization process, so it's trying to dial in how to make all these different crystals form. And there's multiple ways to do it. With cured product, it's a little bit harder to get, like the big diamonds, but you can definitely get solid looking crystals for sure.
Yeah, okay.
So, just to take it back to the live, my understanding now is that anything live smells exactly like the plant when it was alive.
Correct, yeah, if you walked into the garden, walked up to the plant and smelled that plant on day of harvest, and you're just like, oh my God, like that is what we're extracting, that's what goes into our concentrate.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I didn't know that, I learned something.
Yeah, that's why we spent a lot of, I can't tell you how many terpene tests I did. Everything makes a difference from the type of solvent you're using to the temperatures that you're extracting at. If you mess any of that up, you're not going to get a full terpene profile. And I didn't realize this, and we had entered a contest called the Clementine Challenge, and they did a terpene test on the flower, and they did a terpene test on the concentrate. And when they did it, we were missing a couple of the terpenes that were in there, and it got me kind of just scratching my head like, what did we do? So it kind of sent me down this rabbit hole of just trial and error until we got it all figured out and dialed it into where we're getting that one-to-one representation.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, on testing, like actually, we just started having to do heavy metal testing on the 403 side.
Right.
Frankly, I'm not worried about it, like we're not using anything with that much heavy metal, but I'm wondering in the concentrates, is that something that like, you know, if your process isn't done right, or is that, how are we gonna get heavy metals?
You know, I haven't seen it come through on the concentrate side, so I haven't had to really dive in to try to figure out what was causing it.
Okay, that's a fair answer, that's a fair answer. Yeah, no, they just released the bulletin, and I wanna say like last week, and I was looking at it, it's like 4 of them, it's like mercury, lead, cadmium, and
Right.
the other one's like slipping my mind. And I'm just like, there's no way in a garden that we're gonna get, you know.
No, I wouldn't
that-
imagine,
that.
you know, it'd have to be something odd that you're maybe spraying on the plant or a weird nutrient or something like that. I'm not 100% familiar with what's going on with that
What's
yet.
going on, but I was wondering, like, cause I was thinking, like, you know, that might be something that affects like a concentrate company, cause when you're like, you know, reducing stuff down.
So
could you
that's-
potentially.
That's not it, but it could potentially come through on the cartridges. So we've gone through and tested our cartridges to make sure that there's no heavy metal or residual coming through on those.
Okay,
So that is one thing that we did go through and do, and our cartridges passed.
Okay.
awesome. Yeah, no, I was just wondering, like, if it was something you guys were like, have on your radar, or not really so much. For me, like, you know, you're not really thinking it's gonna come up.
Yeah, I haven't seen it come through yet, and it's not required on the concentrate side, so we've just done R&D testing on it.
Right.
But I know the flower side is starting to require that testing.
Yeah, that went live yesterday on the 1st.
Yeah,
Sure.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with some of these vape pens as well.
Definitely, so my understanding like, was they were gonna do the 404 testing for like the concentrates and for the labs, starting in April. So I think when I saw it, they were supposed to.
Right, but the new rules about the vape pens and the additives and the botanically dried terpenes all went into effect on the 1st.
So what are the rules about botanically?
So everything has to be botanically dried.
Right, no artificial.
Correct, and they have banned, what was it, PEG, MCT, and vitamin E acetate from being used in the pens as well.
As well, they should.
Yeah. Yep. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how everyone transitions. You know, obviously with something like this where it's a live resin pin, there's no concern at all.
Right.
But some of these people that are using something that's MCT based or something like that, it's hard to find a solution to that problem.
Right, no, other than change your material or change your process.
Right, it's changing formulations and you know what you're putting out into the marketplace. It's completely revamping companies.
And I think for the best, especially with like 10 states right now.
Right.
All right, well, thank you, Jeremy, for your time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Hey, my
Thanks for
pleasure.
coming, yeah.